Hey everyone, RogueGold here, and today I'm delighted to be delivering you all an early review for the next upcoming novel within the Division universe, Tom Clancy's The Division: Compromise. The title is currently set to release on December 6th of this year. However, I was fortunate enough to be granted an early review copy of the book in order to be able to do this, so huge thank you to Aconite and all other involved parties for that. I very much appreciate the opportunity. And yeah, folks, it's here, the next chapter in the Crossroads saga. A few things I want to get out of the way before we fully dive in. Firstly, this will be a spoiler-free review. I will, of course, establish the basic premise of the story here, but I will not go into any specific plot details, so no need to worry there. Secondly, however, I may reference some characters and events from Recruited, which is the first book in this series. I'm not going to fully spoil the entire thing, of course, but if you're interested in getting into the series, then I might suggest you check out my review of Recruited, which I will link in the upper corner of this video right now, so just be warned of that. And then lastly, just to set expectations, I am a fan of storytelling. I love to read and write, but I am not a lore master. I am not NGN, so just know going into this that this review is from the perspective of a Division fan, not a Division lore expert. So for that reason, I certainly do highly encourage you to seek out NGN's review whenever it does drop, or if it already did, I know I'm certainly looking forward to it. But yeah, that should be about it. Without further ado, here's my review of The Division: Compromised. To set the groundwork, Compromised is the direct sequel to The Division: Recruited, which released back in February of this year. Both of these books were written by Thomas Parrott, and the greater Crossroads saga, as it's called, follows the story of a woman named Myra Conhai and her journey as she goes from just an average citizen dealing with the devastation of the green poison, navigating the loss and fear that comes alongside that in a community nearby Washington, D.C. and Maryland, and after a series of events unfold, Myra suddenly finds herself in the company and on a journey with two Division agents as they set out to do Division-y things. And I'll say this right off the bat about Compromised. If you've read Recruited, or you might be able to deduce from the title, it's very much about Myra's journey of discovering her capabilities and her tactical skills as she's recruited and initiated into the Division. And while that's certainly a running theme in Compromised, it was greatly satisfying to see her embrace that learning and step into her own as a Division agent. I want to read from Compromised synopsis, and then we'll go from there. Ever since the green poison epidemic transformed the United States, the Division has worked tirelessly to push the nation back from the brink of collapse. The new food infrastructure brings hope until Division agent Myra Conhai finds an alarming disruption in the critical Texan oil refineries. A group of environmental extremists set on keeping the transformed world free from fossil fuels. When Myra's Division cell is dispatched to secure the area, they discover a private military outfit acting as warlords of the hurricane-ravaged communities. As tensions between the factions come to a head, an old enemy emerges, intending to destroy the Division, forcing Myra into a choice that will make her a hero or villain and question what the Division stands for. So I have to say, that sets things up quite well. We will circle back to the plot because I have some key things to say there. It's a bit hard to tiptoe around without spoiling anything, but let's start with this. Compromise definitely has a different type of story archetype than Recruited did. Recruited was kind of your classic journey story, right? They're traveling vast distances, seeing new sights, and learning new information, whereas Compromised honestly felt more similar to a traditional Division campaign, where you have a base of operations and then you venture out to different locations within a region for whatever purposes. And obviously it doesn't follow that to a T, but it was structured quite differently to its predecessor, and that's not a good or bad thing. Honestly, I thoroughly enjoyed both presentations within Recruited and Compromised. One thing I will say is that I loved Compromised's setting. As it states in the synopsis, this takes place in the Texas-Louisiana area, and I think anytime we get to see a new region or biome within the Division universe, it always feels very cool, and this is no exception. The warm temperature and color tones and weather all jumped off the page wonderfully, and it was just a really fun environment to be in. The characters, just like last time around, were great. In this, we have a few newcomers as some of the old ones are rotated out, and I will say this, individually, I loved all of these new characters. Specifically, we get a new viewpoint character in this that's a lot of fun. I think they bring a lot of depth to the story, but if I'm being honest, I did miss that camaraderie between Brenda, Leo, and Myra from the first book. Not saying the team in this one didn't work, not at all, but I did really miss that trio. One of them in particular, and I think you'll know who once you dive in for yourself. But like I said, the characters were great. The enemy factions and antagonists in this were also phenomenal. Definitely a step up and even more compelling than in Recruited, I felt. Especially the faction teased in the synopsis, a group of environmental extremists set on keeping the transformed world free from fossil fuels. I mean, that's a great premise for an enemy faction. They end up playing a bit of a different role than I was picturing, but they're intimidating, menacing, and there's a certain confrontation in this book. I won't give any specifics, but it is, while undoubtedly horrific and very disturbing, one of the largest scale conflicts I feel we've ever seen in any Division media, game or otherwise. It was really gut-wrenching, and I'll be be very curious to hear people's thoughts about it. So overall, story structure, environment, and descriptions, characters, enemies, it's quite clear to me that Thomas felt more comfortable than ever when writing this book. He clearly has developed a fantastic sense of what a Division story is, even more so than in Recruited, which I already thought was great. Compromised is unapologetically Division. It's awesome. But at the same time, this isn't also, Division Mission of the Week. It's a complex story which 100% carries on the themes and ideas from Recruited. The events from that book are paramount to this story. Then they haunt Myra, and that's fantastic. But yeah, this just blends the dark nature of the Division's lore, the troubled characters, and the sci-fi elements of Division's tech and agents so well. It's really wonderful. To circle back, though, we have to talk about the plot. Again, hard to do so without spoiling anything, but I will do it, don't worry. I think it was like halfway through this book when I thought I pretty much knew where things were going. Let me tell you guys, unless, again, you're NGN, a lore master, you have no idea where this is going. And by the time you reach the end, at least for me, I was blown away. I mean, Recruited had some surprises up its sleeve, but man, Compromise is a wild ride from beginning to end. The amount of setup that Thomas is able to do and the things he's able to place in characters he's able to manipulate in certain ways, everything comes together so well by the end that I was simply elated. It was fantastic. This is, in my opinion, a far more complex story than Recruited. Again, journey story versus single region conflict. There's more characters, more moving parts, more everything, but it's all executed wonderfully. I will say I think the only downside of that is that there are a few points and details in the beginning parts of the book that I thought were pretty convenient, but honestly, if plot conveniences are the necessary evil to deliver that ending, I'm all for it, and I can easily overlook it. And I very much want to underscore this point, far more so than Recruited. If you're a fan of the games, and specifically the general lore as well as the ongoing story in Division 2 right now, I won't go so far as to say this is a must-read, but man, are you going to get hyped from reading this. Not only are there some very cool, and I mean very cool, fan service moments and really cool depictions of in-game things, but there are genuinely some moments in this that had my mouth hanging open, and those would not have had the same effect if it weren't for the background knowledge I had from playing the game. Some things are subtle, but man, they're so exciting, and it honestly is kind of driving me crazy that I have to wait now 2 months to do a spoiler talk because it's going to be juicy. On a related note, if you didn't know, Recruited at the time was the furthest out piece of content within the Division universe chronologically. It was taking place in the September-October window, whereas Division 2 is still somewhere around June, July, August to my knowledge, and so naturally, Compromised is the sequel to Recruited, and it takes place even further into the future. And there are some references to events in this that I know for a fact have not yet happened in the game. I'm not going to say any more than that, but again, if you're a fan of Division 2 and specifically its story, you're going to get extra appreciation out of this. Alright everybody, well I believe that just about wraps up my review of The Division Compromised. I'm not one for rating scales and all of that, but I highly recommend this book. On its own, it's a wonderful entry into the Division universe, continuing on with some of the great characters from the first book, exploring a whole new corner of the country, meeting new enemy factions, but specifically if you're a game fan, you're going to get a kick out of this. And I think the entire Crossroads series is a wonderful companion to the games. So even if you're so-so on books as a whole, if you've got an extra 10 to 12 bucks to spend, go support this often less talked about side of the Division universe. Thomas has come in and crafted some excellent tales here in both Recruited and now Compromised, and he deserves that support. So whether it's paperback or ebook, and I'm sure they'll eventually add an audiobook version, Division Compromised Amazon link is in the description and available for pre-order. I highly encourage you to go and check it out. I will also leave Recruited's link down there too if you have not read that yet. Check them both out. Both the work and the author deserve a lot of praise, in my opinion. Let me know your thoughts on this, everyone. Obviously, I know you all haven't read it yet, but if you read Recruited, what are you hoping for or expecting to get out of this? What are your theories? What do you think about that synopsis or my own thoughts? Leave it all below. I will be very excited to read through it. That is going to do it for me today, everybody. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and until the next one, guys, RogueGold. Out.